Hi everybody. It's can you hear me okay? I hope so. Lovely. It's really lovely to be here this morning. Thank you for waking up early. I know there are some people overseas as well joining. So thank you very much for staying up late or waking up really early. And thank you, Jess and the team, for inviting me today. It's wonderful to be here with all of you. I wanted to start off by saying Kedu, which is hello and a warm welcome in Igbo, the Nigerian dialect that we speak at home. It's also the words that we use when we welcome people into our studio and our shop. So Kedu, and thank you for joining me today. Jess did such a wonderful job of introducing me, but as she said, yes, my name's Dinzi Amobi-Sanderson. I am the owner of ULO, which is a African textile and lifestyle brand based here in Melbourne. We make beautiful pieces, well, I think they're beautiful pieces using wax fabrics and textiles that we source from all regions of Africa. So Ghana, Tanzania, Nigeria, where I was raised, Senegal, and we do so through apparel and homewares. So it's been a wonderful labour of love, and we're in our coming up to our fourth year. So it's really wonderful to still be standing. Before I was a business owner, I was actually a lawyer. And made the transition from being a lawyer to a business owner and a creative 6 weeks before finding out I was pregnant with twins. So that was a really exciting adventure, and I'd say probably a very busy first year of being a business owner and also being a mother. So yeah, it's been really wonderful. As Jess mentioned, today's theme is matriarchy. And I'm just looking over here because I've got some notes, so excuse me if I'm looking away from you. But today's theme is matriarchy. I'll go back to the other slides. And it is a wonderful thing to be able to speak of because I have so many people that fall into this kind of theme for me. I have to be honest, when Jess shared the theme with me and asked me to speak today, I panicked. And the first thing I did was call my mother in London. And I called her and I said, Mom, I've got to do this talk and it's on matriarchy. So what should I talk about? And being, my mother being the way she is, she said, well, why on earth are you calling me? You're a matriarch now. You're a mother, you're a grown woman, delve in and use your experience. And it was in that moment that I thought, this is what matriarchy, kind of part of matriarchy is for me, which is reverting back to my mother, seeking guidance, seeking advice, seeking approval of what I was going to talk about. And I did that really because she's obviously been a big part of my life. So I found that really interesting, that my first instinct was to call my mother, who's miles and miles and miles away from me at the age of 37, to ask about what I should talk about today. But I, as well as speaking to my mother, I also asked friends and family and some of my colleagues, some of my team members, I said to them, what do you think matriarchy is to you? And it was quite interesting, the reactions I got. Some people said, oh, it's all about control and power and the woman that leads the tribe. And others said, oh, matriarchy to me has stemmed from friends, aunts, uncles, people that they've worked with or come into in their lives, or communities that they've been part of. And that was really interesting for me, in the sense that people get inspiration and they have a sense of a matriarch in their life in a non-typical sense as well. So that was really fascinating for me to learn. But really, for me, matriarchy is a huge part of my life. It was lovely when we all started joining to hear who are some of the most inspiring women in your lives. And I was reading what some of you were writing, and it was really lovely. I'd have to second that and champion all of that. And I'd love to share about two people in my life who are really the matriarchs of our family. And I'll take you to this photo here. They don't mind me showing this. This is my beautiful family. On the left is my mother. And in the middle, squashed between the twins, is my grandmother. And I'll start with my grandmother, Mrs. Jean Sousa Okpafabri, who is quite a woman. In fact, next month, and she's a wonderful, wonderful woman, very courageous, very bold. She met my grandfather, a Black man in the UK, and 2 weeks later was on a boat heading to Africa with him to live this life. And I always speak to her about that experience and why she did it and how she felt, we still say to this day, that's just the craziest thing to do. But she said, you've got to be adventurous in life. You've got to try things out. And what's the worst that can happen? You just go home. But make sure you give everything a good go. But my grandmother lived in Nigeria for over 35 years until my grandfather passed away. And she lived a beautiful life, raising 3 children in Africa. Till this day, she still says Nigeria is her home. And she also had a wonderful career and was awarded an OBE many years ago and has done some tremendous things with her life. And it's wonderful that she's been able to reach 90. I did call her last week just to check in on her, and she actually had the cheek to say to me, I can't talk right now, I'm really busy, I've got friends over for tea. So she's a really, really wonderful woman, but incredibly, incredibly inspirational and influential, and was part of my motivation for making the transition from a corporate lawyer into, being a designer, a creative, and also business owner. The second woman, of course, that's had, I would say, is my matriarch personally. It's my mother, who sits on the left there. And she is a wonderful woman herself. She was one of the first Black women to attend Oxford University in the UK to study medicine. She is a retired NHS doctor, and she has done some wonderful things in her life, in her career, but also being able to kind of juggle, wear several hats of raising a family, moving from Nigeria and then to London, and raising a small family whilst having a wonderful career. And, if I think about my mum and why I think she is a matriarch is because of one instance which happened just over a year and a half ago when the pandemic hit. She had just retired. She came out to Melbourne to help my family and to be with her grandchildren. And she spent some time with us, but then unfortunately with COVID hitting the UK, she had to return. She turned to me and she said, I've got to go back to London. I have to go back. And I said, no, just stay here. You'll be, you can just stay with us. And she actually said, no, I have to return because I'm an NHS doctor and duty calls. And what that moment did for me, albeit that it was sad to be losing my mother here, it was a moment for me where I realized what, some of why she's an inspiration and some of the elements of being a matriarch, which is that it's not just about being a mother. You have a sense of duty, obviously, to your family, to your children, to your siblings, everyone around you, but also a sense of duty and purpose to her profession, albeit that she had retired. And that for me is just one of the wonderful elements of being a matriarch, is this sense of duty and care to those around you, your community, to your career, yourself, your own personal development as a woman, not just as a mother or a doctor or something else. But and I found that moment really inspiring. And like I said, as sad as I was to see her go, I understood, and I was really, really inspired by the fact that she then returned back to the UK to work in her old NHS hospital and help there. But both of these women, I touch on them because they've been incredibly influential to me, not just as a mother now, but also as a business owner. They really have encouraged me, and they really, they're so passionate about being strong women, being confident, being aware of your community, and really instilling all those wonderful values that I think many of you who, if you were to think about the matriarchs that you know so well, probably also have. And myself as a mother, I have two beautiful children. I'm really glad that you can't hear them screaming in the background. They're okay, but they are now 3 years old, and they're identical twins. And as I mentioned, I started the business. I started ULO 6 weeks before finding out I was pregnant with. And I actually turned to my mother and my grandmother during that time, and I said, "This is crazy. I'm about to leave a very good, decent job and start something on my own. I didn't know where it would lead. I didn't know if it had any opportunity. I just really believed in it." And I spoke to them at great lengths and asked them for advice. And they were really, really well, encouraging. And they, as my grandmother said when she got on that ship and left the UK to go to Africa, well, what is the worst that can happen? Give it a go and be courageous, be bold. And as long as you're passionate about what you're doing and believe in what you're doing, then others will believe with you and go on that journey with you. So for me, ULO and being a small business owner here is really about reflecting my family values, and ULO is really a family business. All the values of ULO have really stemmed from those two wonderful women that I was just talking about. And for us, we make the most beautiful, well, I think they're the most beautiful collections here. And we use textiles that have brought us so much joy and my family so much joy. And many of the pieces that we make and some of the collections that we have done are actually named after some of the most powerful, well, the most inspiring women in my life. So, we make really gorgeous dresses, but one of the dresses is named after my grandmother, and it's incredibly over the top, vivacious. It's very bold and out there, but it really represents her personality. I think, so she's been a very big inspiration to some of the things that we've made. We're also we're starting to work on a new homewares line, and the story behind that is really a nod to my mother, who finds very simple moments and joy from doing simple things at home, and has always been able to keep that sort of wonderful simplicity within our home, but also creating using color and textile and joy around all of us. So it was really interesting and fascinating that when Jess asked me to talk about matriarch, I stuttered slightly because I wasn't too sure. Sorry, that's my thing. I wasn't too sure what to talk about. And as I sat and thought about this, and I don't know if you've done this yet with regards to this month's theme, but I really reflected and realized how influential matriarchs are in our life, and what they can do to encourage us to do bigger and better things, and how they kind of trickle into our lives, the advice that they give, and what they do kind of goes through what we do as people as well. And for me personally, having these really strong women is such an inspiration for what I'm doing now and for the business for ULO. And it also, matriarchs as well, they really stand you in good stead for like the women that you want to have around you, not just women, but also your colleagues, the people that you work with, the people you interact with on an everyday level. Those values are so important and are, part of everything that we're doing. So it's really wonderful to talk on this theme today. I was really interested that when we joined, that some of you were talking about your mothers and your grandmothers. I think somebody mentioned their aunt as well. And, I think it's a really wonderful thing to learn about other people's influences. But I would ask you today to do one thing after this talk, which is to go away and go and talk to the oldest woman or oldest matriarch that you have in your life. Go and sit down with them if you can, or pick up the phone or send them an email and just ask them what really inspired them, what continues to inspire them, and what brings them joy into their life. And I think if you have those conversations with the matriarchs in your life, you'll realize that some of those elements are also kind of filtering and trickling through what you do in today and how, where you are in your life right now. So that's my my very short and sweet speech on matriarchy. And I'm very intrigued to hear about all of the people that you say are, that you call reference matriarchs, what values and why you reference them as those people in your life. So I'm happy to take any questions
Wow, thank you so much, Dinzi. That was just beautiful. And thank you for sharing so much of your family and your story with us. Wow, what a bunch of women, hey, that's incredible. I loved as well this idea of the sense of duty and care and matriarchy beyond motherhood. I know something, I don't have children and I'm not intending on having children. And for me, that is it's a really important part of it. I think that we can still have, instill these values and these roles for each other, for the next generation, without being actual mothers ourselves. I also loved talking about your mum finding joy in simple moments, because my mum was exactly the same. I remember she had this potato peeler. It was like a bright purple potato peeler, and she loved it. And she said, every time I peel potatoes, I feel joyful because of this beautiful thing. And I love that, just finding beauty in the small things is such a, it's something I think of often, actually, that those things are actually things that seem insignificant can actually be incredibly important. I've got my mum to thank for that. So please let us know any questions you have for Dinzi in the chat. I am so fascinated by your grandmother. Where do you think that sort of that courage, that like what's the worst that could happen kind of spirit came from? Was that instilled from her family into her, do you think?
It was. And I was going to talk about my great-grandmother because she was quite a woman too. She lived until she was 101. And my grandmother tells this story of when she went home to tell her mother she was moving to Africa. And she says that she went home and she said, "Oh, Mum, I've met a black man." And my great-grandmother said to her, "Well, why on earth are you telling me what color he is? He could be pink with blue spots. For goodness sake, just tell me his name." Which back in the day would have been quite a tremendous, amazing thing to say, an amazing response from, your mother, a mother hearing that her 19-year-old daughter is about to board a ship to Africa from the UK. So I think her confidence and her thrill for life and actually passion for life really has come probably from her mother as well, and the environment that she was raised in. I know she also she learned to take risks living in Africa, and she's such a worldly woman. So I think her confidence has come from everywhere. It's come from being a mother of three. It's come from working on some wonderful projects and meeting some incredible people. So yeah, I think she always steals the limelight. Every time I have to talk about my family, my grandmother's all that anybody wants to hear about.
I believe you. No, that's incredible. We're a rich tapestry of our past, the people around us, our families, the people we choose to spend time with, aren't we? We have a question from Julia. Hi, Julia, in the chat. How did you see your mum and grandma when you were growing up? That's a great question. And how has it changed since you're also a mum now?
Can you say that again? Sorry, Jess.
Sure, sorry. How did you see your mum and your grandma when you were growing up? And how has it changed since you're a mum now as well?
I saw both of my, hi Julia, I saw my mum and my grandmother very similar, in fact, just very strong, passionate women who took no nonsense and were very, very ambitious as well. But really, my mother in particular was incredibly ambitious, and I saw her. I was incredibly proud of her. I always was very proud of I remember going to school and saying, my mum's a doctor, my mum's a doctor. But it wasn't to show off that she was a doctor. I was just incredibly proud because she was really, had done this, moving countries, and then subsequently kind of raising my sister and I solo whilst my father was stuck in Nigeria. So I was just incredibly proud that she was able to achieve such wonderful things for herself. And you could tell how proud she was of what she's doing and the work, and how she gets so much joy from helping people. So that's how I really viewed my mum and my grandmother growing up. Now, as a mother of two children, how do I view my mother? I view them as saints. I don't know. I regularly call my mother and I will say, I call her, and all I say is, I'm just calling you, Mum, to say thank you for being at that sports day. Thank you for being at that ballet class. How the hell did you do it? I'm in absolute awe of my mum now that I've got children. I absolutely am. And I find her an even bigger inspiration than I did when I was much younger and not really understanding what kind of responsibility she had herself. So yeah, that's how I view them.
That's lovely, and so lovely that you always felt that sense of pride. I don't think it registered with me that my parents were actually like individual human beings till I was like 20. A few more questions coming through in the chat. How did she get her OBE? That's a good question.
My grandmother worked on the Eurostar, the Eurotunnel. So she was working in the operations, assisting one of the big managers that oversaw the project, so the project managers, and she had quite an important role in it. So she was awarded, and she went to Buckingham Palace with her three children, my mum and my aunt and uncle, and it was a really, really proud moment for her. So yeah.
How special.
Yeah.
Erin would like to know, Erin is our previous Creative Mornings speaker. Hello, Erin. About your business and the African fabrics. Does your connection to family influence your creative decisions, or do you have family in mind when choosing certain fabrics or styles? She just wants to know more.
Yes and yes. ULO, everything we do at ULO, everything we design and create, so we make everything ourselves in our studio here in Melbourne, and I do predominantly the beginning of the design phase, but everything I design and create, I always think about what my family would think about the pieces we make. And everything we make is just firstly to bring joy and comfort to people's lives. And we do that through the color and the textile, because that's what brings me joy still now, wearing it, having it in my home, dressing my kids in it sometimes. We always design, and I always think, and in fact, I always call my mum to ask her what she thinks. She already, she kind of vetoed 3 things that we were going to design later this month, so they're not going through. And so, yeah, they are very, very influential in this business, in ULO. But also, we're creating pieces for people to enjoy every day. So we don't just make dresses and just apparel. We make, we're launching a new homewares line later in a few weeks. And the reason I did that was because one of the collections will be some table linen. And I just remember sitting down, and it's the simplest moment of just coming together as a family that my mother was so, so passionate about. Every evening, she would set the table, make it really beautiful and colourful. And, just to have a 10-minute dinner. But to her, it was really important because that's the time that people would come together. That's when you would share what you've done today, your achievements, what's upsetting you. So our new table collection that we're launching is really, really close to my heart, and it's going to be named after my mum. In terms of what we do with the business, collaborations or business ideas or business opportunities, the first thing I think about is what would my parents say about them? So what would my parents think about this collaboration? Is it going to sit within our values? And those values of ULO are very much the values that my parents raised me with. So I always know if something doesn't feel right because I get an icky feeling in my stomach, I usually call my mum. She should probably be the CEO of the business because she has so much influence, but I always call my mum. It could be 4 a.m. in the UK and I'm saying, Mum, I'm not sure about this. And she always says, trust your gut. And so I guess your gut instinct has always come from, how you're raised, what's important, what are your values. So it's very, very, very much, ULO is very much a heavily, constructed and growing around, my family values as well. Yeah. So they have a huge part to play in it. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. How lovely to have that as your sort of guiding star that you can run everything through. Taku would like to know, do you create or print any of your own fabric patterns?
We have printed our own fabrics, some of them, and we will be doing so later this year. We usually source all of our textiles from fabric vendors based in different regions of Africa. My goal with ULO is to showcase the very best of African textile, and that means using pieces from all over different regions. We've done Ghana, Tanzania, Nigeria, and Senegal. And it takes a while because obviously you have to build up really good relationships and get to know the people behind the fabrics. So some of the fabrics we've sourced just from our vendors who print there, and others we are designing ourselves. Doing all of this remotely and also doing in Africa where there are challenges such as, sometimes some of our designers and studios where they print, they don't have running water, they don't have electricity. So there's a lot of delays that come with the business. And I know that some people have said, oh, why don't you just source from the big manufacturing companies? But that's not why I started ULO. I started ULO because I wanted to support creative people who've got the most wonderful, the most amazing skills in local regions of Africa, and I wanted to support their business and support their craft as well. So
yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Dinzi. Well, I think we might wrap it up there. I can't thank you enough for your generosity, and I feel like our hearts are all a little bit warmer having heard your stories this morning. So thank you so, so much. We are going to open breakout rooms now for about 10 minutes. So you'll be randomly popped into a breakout room of about 3 or 4 people. If that's not for you, no worries. Thank you so much for coming, and we'll hope to see you next time. For everyone else, thank you for being here. Hope you have a wonderful weekend ahead, and either see you in breakout rooms or see you, hopefully, in person next month. Thank you so much, Dinzi.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks so much.